Super Mario Galaxy is one of my all-time favorite games. As a kid, you couldn't get me off this game. See, as far as I was concerned, house fires and earthquakes could only dream of messing up my flow as I perfectly platformed my way through yet another planet. If our home was getting robbed, I'd sit the robber's ass down and force him to play co-op mode, only to kick him out moments later once I realised how dogshit he was. Despite all this, however, I have never 100%ed these games, and while I couldn't exactly remember why, it didn't take long for them to remind me. Now typically, I record and note down all of my deaths manually, as that's the metric we'll be using to determine which game is harder to 100%. In this particular case, however, I won't be doing that, as each game drops your embarrassing death count on your forehead the moment you 100% it. Alas, with all of the waffle out of the way, let's shoot our way into the first game to make me shoot a load.
What?
The game starts with a letter from Peach, promising us something no sane man would turn down. Mario, obviously chuffed at the thought of Peach's skilled hands, waltzes his way into the first playable section of the game. Now despite the rather seductive letter from Peach, our focus lied elsewhere, as I quickly realised just how mind-numbingly stupid it was to try and play this game using the Pro Controller. Before I could correct this mistake, however, the Mushroom Kingdom was seemingly bombarded by cannonballs. See, the Mushroom Kingdom had apparently stopped exporting magic mushrooms to their neighbouring kingdoms, and it was finally starting to bite them in the arse. The leader of this invasion was none other than Bowser, who had been suffering from severe withdrawal symptoms. Knowing he couldn't take over the entire kingdom with his measly fleet, he instead looked to kidnap Princess Peach, knowing full well she'd be the perfect hostage when it came to negotiating trade. What wasn't apparent beforehand, however, was the fact that Bowser had been touching tips with Zeus, as he somehow uses the power of lightning to summon a fucking UFO out of thin air. During all of this, it had become quite clear now that the gift Peach had alluded to in her letter was in fact the lame Luma plushie she was holding. Disappointed, we spent the next few minutes screwing around with the camera controls, which awkwardly enough gave Bowser just enough time to not only kidnap Peach, but the entire goddamn castle. Considering this castle was worth an absolute fortune in today's property market, we knew we couldn't just give it up without a fight, although it soon became apparent that that was exactly what we were going to do. Having experienced the humbling of a lifetime, we miraculously awake on a distant planet. Ignoring the fact that we're somehow breathing without oxygen, we're challenged to a game of hide and seek by these shape-shifting creatures. Unfortunately for them, we were absolutely starving, meaning they looked less and less like magical Easter bunnies and more so like our next supper. In a fit of desperation, they begged that we instead talk to their leader, who just so happened to be the baddest bitch in the galaxy. As thanks for not eating her kin, Rosalina blesses us with baby Luma, a being so powerful, he grants us an omnipotent ability, that being the ability to spin. Apparently the only prerequisite for using these launch stars was turning 360 degrees in a circle, and considering we just gained this immense ability, we were finally able to blast our way to the first planet in the game. It was here where we learnt just how important this new ability was. Not only could we use it to break stuff, it also proved rather useful in combat situations. Considering this is the prologue of the game, it shouldn't come as a surprise when I say that everything we do here is extremely straightforward. The platforming in this first stage is rather rudimentary, while Mario himself controls almost identically to any other Mario game. Where things start to shift, however, is with the game's new gravity system. Because we're running around tiny ass planets, the camera angles tend to rotate to keep Mario in sight at all times. This not only ensures that us players have a working neck by the end of it, but it also changes the movement itself, as Mario is often pulled between planets or around them as he jumps. For now, this shit doesn't exactly mean much, but it will come to haunt us in later levels. Either way, after stepping on all these pads, we're able to collect our first grand star. These stars act as the general power source throughout the galaxy, meaning the more we collect, the richer we get. Despite that being our end goal, we instead looked to pawn this first star over to Rosalina, as she desperately needed it to power her observatory. See, while selling this bad boy on the black market would have resulted in far more significant monetary gain, we knew deep down that we had no way of accessing more power stars. Handing it over to Rosalina, on the other hand, meant that we could access more galaxies, and within those galaxies laid more power stars. Oh, and with enough power stars, we could generate enough power to travel to the center of the universe and claim back what was rightfully ours, Peach's castle. With our sights set on a life of luxury, we wasted no time making our way into the terrace where we uncovered our first destination. As a kid, I remember being so excited to jump into it that I never truly gave Good Egg Galaxy the time of day. Now, however, there's only one reaction I have when that god tier music hits. In terms of the level itself, Good Egg Galaxy does an excellent job at introducing the core mechanics of the game.
Boo, you suck!
In all seriousness though, for the first galaxy in the game, it pretty much covers all the bases. It contains multiple planets, each with their own platforming challenges, hidden mini sections that reward players for completing their objectives, as well as the game's first boss. Yeah. In spite of all this though, the galaxy itself is still rather tame in terms of difficulty. See, despite it introducing these intimidating black holes, they had about as much gravitational pull as a botched BBL job. The enemies on the other hand either attacked but couldn't move, or couldn't attack but could move. This paired with the fact that we could now snipe the shit out of them from across the universe meant we didn't exactly struggle leading up to us cracking this mysterious egg. Smacking its tail ultimately revealed the big monster hiding within, yet despite its intimidating frame, there remained but one question. How the fuck does it know where it's going without any eyes? Pointless questions aside, this Dino Piranha didn't seem too keen on the fact that we broke his shell, and for the next few minutes relentlessly chased us down to the point where he actually dealt us our first bit of damage. Granted, having watched myself run in a straight line, it was obvious that I was extremely rusty. Well, it was either that or I was completely brain dead. At last, after getting that railing from behind, we locked in and delivered some brutal backshots of our own. Upon its defeat, we grab our first power star before soaring back to the Comet Observatory. Returning to the map, you may notice the numerous other objects floating around. Unfortunately, we don't have the required power to observe these galaxies at the moment, meaning we had no choice but to dive back into Good Egg Galaxy, where we came across this rather lively Luma. On the contrary, however, this Luma was apparently on the brink of death as he hadn't eaten for decades. Seeing this as an opportunity to farm some good karma, we agreed to shove our bits down his throat to the point where he had no choice but to transform, creating a whole new planet in the process. It's important that we feed these Lumas whenever we come across them, as they often transform into whole ass galaxies that hold their own power stars. In this case, this new planet allows us to access this massive capsule which not only introduces this neat gravity shifting mechanic, but also acts as our first pseudo 2D section. Eventually we end up ricocheting around this random ass platform as we awkwardly try and hit this star. Seeing as we've now collected 3 power stars, we've got enough power to discover a wholly new galaxy. Although to keep things simple, I only ever moved to the next galaxy once I had collected every star from the previous one. This did mean we once again returned to Good Egg Galaxy, where we faced off against King Hentai in an epic showdown where we swatted his balls right back at him. As intimate as this whole process was, all we truly cared about was the power star he had hidden inside a suspiciously shaped mouth. As soon as we'd collected it, we could finally move on to a more exciting galaxy. A galaxy in which we turned into a bee. Look, I swear this shit was cool as a kid, right? Honeyhive Galaxy is under the rule of the Queen Bee, although considering this is her royal guard,
What the hell is even that?
it became obvious that this kingdom would instantly fall no matter who invaded it. In hopes of gaining favour from their queen, we buzzed our way across the galaxy dealing with the pest infestation as we saw fit. Our new bee power-up not only allows us to fly in short bursts, but it also lets us cling to honeycomb surfaces, which we use to reach the queen bee. Despite this being our first meeting, we wasted no time in crawling up over her. The resulting launch star ends up launching us towards this group of misfits who thought stalking us back to the Comet Observatory was okay, just because they gave us a measly power star. When threatened, they promised to help us find some more power stars, although I didn't have too much confidence in their pledge considering the state of their spacecraft. Returning to Honeyhive Galaxy not only had us ground pounding for the first time, but also talking to signposts. Talking signposts were the least of our worries however, as this level introduced an enemy type that could be considered mildly challenging. These Mandy bugs are by far the quickest enemies we've had to deal with yet, making it more likely that they'll catch us off guard at times. Tragically though, it seems they haven't evolved past running in a straight line, making dispatching them a whole lot easier. Obliterating this tight-knit family not only earns us yet another power star, but puts an end to their bloodline for good. Or so I thought. Oh, for fuck's sake, you gotta be kidding me. It seems the ones we'd just taken out were part of the royal bloodline, and in a fit of rage, their leader had decided to invade Honey Hive Galaxy with the rest of his soldiers. Taking these soldiers out was a simple enough task, a notion that couldn't be translated to their leader. Bugaboom isn't necessarily a tough boss fight, but it can be an annoying one. His first two phases aren't too bad, but his third one sees him doing barrel rolls in mid-air while dropping turds disguised as bombs. These turds, while putrid, don't pose much of a threat as we're constantly flying around in the air. The frustrating part, however, is trying to land this final ground pound, as this asshole won't keep still. Alas, we did finally give him a taste of our massive cheeks as we picked up our 7th Power Star. With 2 galaxies seemingly completed, we moved into Flip Switch Galaxy, which only featured 1 star. These mini galaxies usually feature one core mechanic, and in this state, it was these flip switches.
Well, duh.
Ironically enough, this was probably our toughest platforming challenge yet, as there were countless moving obstacles looking to get in our way. With that said, it is an extremely small galaxy, meaning it wasn't long before we were returning to the observatory with another star. Upon completing it, we're rewarded with our first gold crown, which tells us this galaxy is 100% complete.
Nice.
What's interesting here though, is that despite collecting all the apparent stars in the first 2 galaxies, they didn't show a crown symbol, meaning we were going to have to return there sooner or later. Alas, this was a concern for another time, as we had bigger fish to ride. Loop-de-Loop Galaxy was the first one to impart a sense of fear within me. I have so many vivid memories of this galaxy kicking my ass when I was a kid. The good news, however, is that I am no longer one.
2 seconds later.
Ah, for fuck's sake, I'm still dog shit. I'm like 20 years older. Yeah, it seems no matter how old I get, using motion controls will always find a way to mimic the feeling of having a fist shoved up my ass. What I had to rediscover was that faster didn't always mean better, and in this case, it more often than not meant far worse. The moment we slowed it down and took our turns carefully was the moment we blitzed through the finish line, earning us our very first Olympic gold. Wait, it's just a fucking star. As disappointing as this revelation was, completing this galaxy meant there was one last galaxy for us to conquer in this area. Megaleg's moon acts as the first Bowser Castle stage. If Bowser was replaced by Bowser Jr., and the castle was replaced by a bunch of random fucking planets. Ignoring the fact that it's basically not a Bowser's Castle stage at all now, it does introduce the idea of being chased down by bullet bills. It also features the first of many final bosses to be powered by Grand Stars, and while you'd expect these fights to be tougher as a result, they're really not. With another Grand Star to feast on, the observatory now had enough power to activate the elevator to yet another dome. Before taking it on, however, we still had a rather famished friend to feed. The hungry lumers that find their way to the observatory always require a family-sized meal, and because of this, will always transform into a new galaxy. Where this luma would take us, however, none of us could ever imagine. Welcome to Hetero, a bustling supernatural metropolis where supernatural anomalies and normal urban life coexist. Touted as the very first anime-style urban open-world RPG, take on the role of an appraiser as you use your flashy and unique Esper abilities to control and neutralize dangerous anomalies. Take the fight to these anomalies in 5 different yet stunning districts, each with their own distinct touch that make the whole city pop with personality. Add on the distinct NPC interactions, dynamic weather effects, and full day and night cycles, and you've got a city that feels as fun to traverse as it is to view. Feel free to take the scenic route with the city's inbuilt tram lines, or a more hands-on approach by driving one of the many sleek, fully customizable vehicles. I know you're already itching to download the game and try it out, but stay with me as there's even more. The release of version 1.1 brings with it a whole new map in Sunwood Island, a massive overhaul to the multiplayer experience with new prison brawl fights and unrestricted wild racing, as well as the addition of Chaos, the new hotshot DPS appraiser who may have the sexiest weapon combos yet. Not only that, but he has the ability to place his hounds around this massive metropolis and teleport between them in the blink of an eye. Well, what are you waiting for? Download NTE today and try it out for yourselves. Thanks again to Neverness to Everness for sponsoring this video.
Now for something completely different.
The galaxies created by these hungry lumers only ever feature one power star, although reaching them isn't always as simple. After that embarrassing display, we made our way into the fountain, which looked far more like a bathhouse than any fountain I'd ever seen. The water here might as well have been a mirage though, as the galaxies contained in this dome contained everything but water. Space Junk Galaxy has us pulling our way through the cosmos, fighting off what looks like the granny of all Kameks, as well as saving this brigade of toads once again. I thought they were supposed to be helping us, the fucking useless bunch. It was only after we'd collected all the stars in this galaxy that we are made aware of prankster comets, rare occurrences that affect the planets in unique and strange ways. In this specific case, we're to return to Good Egg Galaxy as there's a speedy comet in orbit. See, contrary to its name, this comet magically imparts the feeling of shitting oneself into its victims, and considering we just landed within its vicinity, we needed to find a toilet ASAP. Thankfully, our route back to the observatory only required us to defeat another Dino Piranha, a simple feat considering we'd obliterated his twin brother not too long ago. Seeing as we'd clogged the toilet at the observatory, we quickly made our way back to the fountain in hopes of feigning ignorance, only to be met with a horror worse than death. Are you fucking kidding me? Thankfully, the experience wasn't nearly as bad the second time around, and after some flashy psychic power use, we were finally free from the grips of this nightmarish comet. With our bowels back in working condition, we were able to confront the main entity terrorizing this galaxy. Any guesses on what it could be? That's right, a spider-like creature with the fattest ass I've ever seen. As proud of this asset as this creature was, it was their most glaring weakness, as one pump into it caused the whole thing to flip in pain. Crushing these sacks on his undersides made sure his species was well and truly extinct. Our next challenge came in the rolling green galaxy, as we're confronted by one of our greatest fears: motion controls. The only silver lining when it comes to this galaxy is the fact that we can take our time when controlling this ball. If there were a time limit attached, I promise you, there'd be a hole in my wall sooner or later. It was at this point where the game started to up the difficulty. Battle Rock Galaxy is where we came across our first auto-scroller, our first Daredevil comet which limits our health to just a single hit point, as well as our first run in with Guillermo. See, Guillermo here was faced with a serious problem. Not only was the galaxy's trash being funneled onto this small island, he was also completely incompetent when it came to his job. As a result, he begged us to help clear up this trash so he'd keep his job for a while longer. The only problem with this request, however, was that his manager was set to arrive in under a minute, meaning we had fuck all time to clear this shit up. This unironically makes it one of the harder challenges in the game, as we're only able to manage a small amount of bomb throws within the given time limit. Misplace even one of them and you've cost this robot his livelihood. With his family's lives on the line, we had no choice but to lock in and clear this junk up for him. Little did we know that this guy had a power star of his own, which he willingly gave us in return for helping him out. By this point in our adventure, we'd seemingly tackled it all. 2D sections with inverting gravities, discarded Beyblades that believed they could take over the universe, as well as a planet filled with platforms that disappear the moment you step on them. Safe to say, there wasn't much out there that could surprise us at this point. Well, that was until Bowser's Star Reactor. See, despite it being a rather short galaxy, it combines a lot of the previous platforming challenges into one stage. As you'd expect, there are plenty of fire bars, but also its very own shifting gravity section, where one mistake leads to us being consumed by a black hole. Bowser awaits us at the end of this galaxy, although he'd do better to hide just how scared of us he was. This pussy would rather take us out from afar than fight us face to face. Although at the end of the day, can you really blame him when we're baiting him into burning his ass hairs only to then slap him from side to side like he's some sort of ping pong ball. With his tail between his legs, Bowser conveniently forgets to take his Grand Star with him, meaning we've not only humbled him, but we've snagged yet another energy source. Using this Grand Star, we're able to power the kitchen area of the observatory, meaning we shouldn't have to worry about any more hungry Lumas. Wait, what? Confused, I decided to check what was being cooked up in the kitchen, only to discover, wait, there's no one fucking here. Where's the chef? With our blood absolutely boiling, we decided to take that rage into the next galaxy. A galaxy made up almost entirely of water. This meant we'd get to try out the swimming mechanics of this game, and as you'd expect, they're pretty dog shit. The fact you can spin while underwater does make things a bit more manageable, albeit the camera angles make turning around in the water an absolute nightmare. The good news is that there were basically no enemies for us to worry about in these depths. In all seriousness though, all we had to do in these earlier water stages was steal from a group of kids, as well as eradicate the remaining eel population. both of which were made easy by proxy due to us slicing through the water on shells. Where things got tougher was on the Cyclone Stone, a small subsection of the Beach Ball Galaxy that had us maneuvering around a pathway full of toy boxes. No, seriously, that's what they're called. During our first visit, these toy boxes were well behaved, giving us plenty of time to sneak into their gaped mouths. On our return visit, however, there seemed to be more Comet voodoo magic on display. The Fast Foe Comet, as its name suggests, makes all enemies move significantly faster. On its own, it wouldn't be too threatening, but when it's paired with enemies that will literally one-hit you should you get caught, there may be some problems. From here, we got an aerial view with the help of this thing, got absolutely humbled on our first bubble blow mission, and claimed our first green star. These green stars are hidden throughout the numerous galaxies, and only after they've been collected can we use the green launch star back at the observatory. In the meantime, we'd heard of Luigi being sighted in a nearby galaxy, which was a rather strange thought considering he'd told us he was going on a vacation in Delfino Plaza. Curious, we looked to check out this room as we headed off to Ghostly Galaxy, which funnily enough featured, well, ghosts.
No shit.
By some miracle, however, these boos were extremely shy, being unable to hold any meaningful eye contact with us. The house they'd supposedly haunted also came equipped with multiple lights which disintegrated them upon impact. A danger we'd have to remember as we soon found ourselves turning into a ghost ourselves. Using our newfound power, we're able to phase through objects and jump scare the shit out of Luigi. Returning to him in human form reveals that he'd taken a flight with Spirit Airlines and gotten lost as a result. Unexpectedly, he was able to snuggle a power star out of the plane's storage just before it took off again, making him a valuable asset to take back to the observatory. There he vows to help us find more power stars, although considering how useful the Toad Brigade has been, we weren't exactly holding our breaths. Upon returning to the Ghostly Galaxy, we meet up with this peculiar Boo, who challenges us to a race across the galaxy. While he's allowed to float, we have to make use of these pool stars, a task that would have been far simpler if the path wasn't blocked by countless bones and fucking bones with meat on them. Honestly, if it wasn't for the small launch star hidden in the back corner here, we'd have been well and truly cooked. Thankfully, we had all the bragging rights as we returned to the observatory, although this elation didn't last long as we received a letter from none other than Luigi, who had somehow gotten lost yet again. The saddest part about all this, however, is the fact that he'd gotten lost on the very first planet you land on. Like, how is it even possible that someone can be this directionally challenged? As braindead as this whole situation was, the fact he'd found a power star was reason enough to rescue him, but wasn't exactly worth it was coming across this haunted boulder. Bouldergeist used to terrorize me as a kid, not only due to his terrifying frame, but because of how RNG the fight is in general. The fight revolves around using these explosive boos to blow him to smithereens, which in theory sounds easy enough. Where it starts to get frustrating, however, is during his second phase, where he summons these hands out of thin air. This not only gives him more attacking options, but they act as barriers and shields to his main body, making it far harder to progress the fight as he can rebuild these arms as many times as he sees fit. With all that said, he isn't exactly the most threatening boss out there. His attacks, while varied, are extremely slow, meaning they're unlikely to hit you even once. Even if they do, we'd already collected the life mushroom before the fight, giving us more than enough health to defeat him. Yeah. So the bastards at Nintendo thought it'd be a sweet idea to drop a Daredevil comment on this boss's forehead, although instead of him having one hit point, we were the ones who had to suffer. Oh, for fuck's sake. Bullshit deaths aside, we really shouldn't be getting hit at all by this boss, a correction I made on our second attempt. With the universe's only sentient boulder destroyed, it was about time we put Bowser Jr. back in his place, as he'd somehow managed to assemble a whole fleet of ships. What he hadn't managed to do, however, was fill these ships with hardened veterans as we waltzed our ways from ship to ship. Realizing his pitiful armada was getting dunked on by a single plumber, Bowser Jr. had no choice but to confront us himself. And while he put up more of a fight, it didn't stop us nailing his ships with shells as we pulled off an absolute masterclass in bullet bill dodging. As tends to be the case, we're rewarded with yet another grand star for our efforts. This star opens up the bedroom, and despite Rosalina rejecting our offer to spend some time in there, this bedroom contained another reason to get excited. Gusty Garden Galaxy, the most famous galaxy in the entire game, and that's for one simple reason: the music. The galaxy itself isn't anything crazy, as we're just riding dandelions across the winds from planet to planet, but the music makes everything feel that much more epic. There's even a point where we're running across a massive worm from apple to apple, and I still thought it was the sickest shit ever. All things considered though, there really aren't that many challenging moments in Ghastly Garden Galaxy. Even our showdown with Major Burrows was a rather lackluster experience. Our ass was apparently so thick that our resulting ground pound sent shockwaves through the earth, shockwaves that Major Burrows here couldn't handle as he had to surface right into our spin attacks. The idea that we were beating his ass with our ass didn't exactly sit well with him, leading to a few moments where he did in fact get a good hit on us. Alas, our dump truck proved too much for him to handle, and for the first time in our entire playthrough, I had somehow gotten through an entire galaxy without doing something stupid. Holy fuck, am I fucking brain dead? The galaxy also contained its own hidden star, which saw us collecting these bonus coins in order to summon a star power-up which we needed to destroy a golden chain chomp. The difficulty in this case doesn't come from intense platforming, but in knowing what the fuck you're supposed to do in the first place. What was somewhat difficult though was our rematch with Major Burrows. Considering we kicked his ass earlier, he'd gone and contracted the Comet Luma to spawn a Daredevil comet in the surrounding area. This meant we had to get up close and personal this time around, which was pretty dicey as should we panic and ground pound too early, there wouldn't be enough time to capitalize on him running around.
Fuck me, that's embarrassing. No, that's bad.
What's important is that we learn from our mistakes, and before long, we demolished the small rat once again. Following this, we got railed by some meteorites, got squashed while trying to be sneaky, and lost our minds trying to lure this bullet bill into this cage which housed another power star. To say things were going well would be a flat out lie. Even so, we were making good progress, picking up not only another comet power star but another elusive green star. By the time we'd reached the Freeze Flame Galaxy, we had full confidence in our platforming skills, which we'd need considering this galaxy had some of the toughest platforming yet. From perfectly timing our jumps to form ice platforms, to facing off against our cosmic clone in a rather tense race, this galaxy certainly looked to provide more challenges. On the other side of things, we had the flame levels, which saw us being bum rushed by countless urchins, or timing our fireball throws while floating across molten lava. The stages that tried to combine the two though were by far the worst. You have no idea how stupid it looks to slide off the face of a lava-based planet because of your own ice platforms. Let's just say that I had to incorporate the old Wint Gamer move to make sure this wasn't a repeat occurrence. What we hadn't realized at the time, however, was the fact that this galaxy had marked the beginning of a considerable difficulty spike moving forward. Bowser's Dark Matter plant was the first stage to reinforce this idea, as we were caught out in the earlier gravity sections. These sections are significantly tougher to maneuver than any previous one, as there are moving objects which we need to make use of if we're going to avoid being gobbled up by the dark matter. Considering the jump up in terms of platforming, I have to say that the rematch against Bowser was rather straightforward. Not only does he have the exact same moveset as before, the few attacks he does learn can be easily countered by our own spin move. Wait, he can counter that? This fight once again ended with us beating his ass into submission, yet despite suffering back-to-back losses, Bowser here still thought he could amount to something. Delusional takes aside, we used the power of our new Grand Star to access the engine room, although we didn't enter it just yet. See, there were a few things we could do beforehand, namely fattening up another Hungry Luma to unlock yet another galaxy. What I hadn't realized at the time, however, was just how frustrating this particular galaxy would turn out to be.
Oh fuck. Ah shit. Ah bro, what the this shit fucking sucks.
I honestly have no idea why this stage gave me so much trouble, as it's arguably one of the most straightforward galaxies yet. All we need to do is aim and time our pulls to shoot from one slingshot to the next. The only problem was I was the complete opposite of an aimbot. Bro, how fucking close do I have to shoot? Honestly, the more I talk about this galaxy, the more embarrassing it becomes. Thankfully, Luigi came in clutch as we're able to shift our attention onto his dumbass and his unique ability to get lost in the strangest places. Now, despite knowing exactly where he'd gotten lost, freeing him from his cage was a completely different story. Leave it to Luigi to trap himself in a cage that wasn't only the furthest away from these bullet bills, but also came with its own defensive pillars. Even though it took a good few years off my life, freeing Luigi here was definitely worth it, as he'd somehow snagged the final green star we needed to activate that mysterious launch star. Using it, we're flung to a planet which houses 3 green Lumas. These 3 Lumas represented 3 different galaxies, all of which act as tougher versions of the motion control galaxies we'd conquered so far. If we ignore the fact that I rolled directly off the map on my first attempt, rolling Gizmo Galaxy was surprisingly easy. Loop-de-Swoop Galaxy on the other hand had me donating deaths to our counter like I was some kind of billionaire. As its name suggests, this course includes its very own loop. A loop, might I add, that's far too narrow to ever pass any company's workplace health and safety checks. Sadly, this asshole didn't give a rat's ass about health and safety standards, meaning we had no choice but to lock in and claim that gold medal once again. We rounded things out with Bubble Blast Galaxy, which if I'm being honest, is a complete cakewalk when compared to these other two mechanics. The next hour or so had us rediscovering the fossilized remains of Jaws, only to destroy them moments later. We also explored Gold Leaf Galaxy, which was essentially just Honey Hive Galaxy with a Maple Treeway skin slapped on it. Our next challenge came in Toy Time Galaxy, particularly in relation to the power-up offered here. Spring Mario has the unique ability to jump towards the heavens, although this power-up comes with its fair share of drawbacks, the obvious one being its limiting factor on our movement capabilities. Honestly, it feels like we'd have a better chance at winning the lottery than dodging just about any attack that homes in on you. The fight against this watch turret in particular was a rather frustrating one, as we'd seemingly get stuck in a loop, only to be hit by these electric shocks straight
Oh, I better not jump into this fucking electric. Oh.
This is made even worse when the tower we're trying to ground pound comes equipped with its very own self-defense mechanism. As stupid as it sounds, I struggled more against this turret than any of the main bosses we'd faced so far. Considering we were delving into Bowser Jr.'s lava reactor next though, this notion could very well change. Yeah, never mind. Look, this char-grilled version of King Calamari definitely puts up more of a fight than his unseasoned counterpart, but the methods in which we defeat him remain the exact same. Sure, the platforms we're standing on slowly sink into the lava below us, but as long as we're constantly jumping, which we kind of have to do anyway to reach some of these coconuts, the rate at which the platforms sink becomes negligible. This 5th Grand Star powers up the hidden Garden Dome, although before we can make our way up there, it seems Luigi is back to doing what he does best. How the fuck did he get stuck there? It's low-key impressive that he manages to hold on to this tree for so long, because who knows when he sent that letter. Alas, with our brother saved once again, we can finally make our way up to the secret Garden Dome. Before reaching it, however, curiosity got the better of us as we entered an area known as the Gate. And while I was sure that this was some kind of metaphor to teach us that despite coming so far, we'd achieved fuck all, returning to this planet did in fact have its benefits. Namely the introduction of the Red Star, a star so powerful that it allows us to fly. Unfortunately, this power-up is restricted to the Comet Observatory and acts as a tool to help establish the idea of purple coin missions. These will become important later on. For now though, we had more pressing matters to attend to, namely collecting every star in the Garden Dome set of galaxies. Our first task saw us visiting Matter Splatter Galaxy, an auto-scroller of sorts that helped reinforce but one thing. Bro, I fucking hate this spring suit upgrade, it pisses me off. Despite the colossal skill issue looming over our heads, we managed to nab the Power Star before making our way down to Deep Dark Galaxy, where we confirmed without a doubt that I am the worst player to ever touch these games. Shite skills aside, we managed to send Granny Kamek here into an early retirement, only to then go straight back to performing diabolical plays. Am I supposed to be doing this shit? See, what you're supposed to do here is blast yourself onto this small planet, annihilate the fodder and collect the Fire Star. Using it, we're able to light these 3 burners, which ironically spawns in an ice flower, for some reason. One thing led to another, and before you knew it, we were ground pounding these golden nectar balls into this watermelon. Yeah, look, I have no idea what the fuck's going on either, so don't bother asking me. As strange as these stages were becoming, this was no time to stop, although I'd be lying if my gameplay didn't suggest it best to. Dreadnought Galaxy was without a doubt the toughest galaxy we'd come across yet. From a constant barrage of bombs to a constant barrage of baby chain chomps, this galaxy applied continuous pressure which did eventually get to me. As if things couldn't get any worse though, we somehow came across Guillermo once again, who had been transferred to this galaxy following his poor performance in the previous one. As you'd expect, this guy was sucking ass here as well, meaning it was once again up to us to do his job for him. The only problem was that this iteration of the job gave us even less wiggle room to play around with. See, instead of 5 perfectly placed bombs, we now had to throw 6, including 2 that had to trigger each other at the last second if we had any hope of completing this within the required time. I'm not sure I want to mention just how long this challenge took. Let's just say, you could easily like the video and subscribe to the channel in the time it took me to beat this level. With how difficult most of these power stars were to collect, the final boss of this galaxy being a rematch against these Beyblade fuckers was a severe letdown, as let's be honest, he's a complete waste bin. By this point, only a handful of galaxies remained in our path, the first of which being the Melty Molten Galaxy. This galaxy was interesting as it was a mixed bag in terms of difficulty. Some power stars had us once again rolling our way to certain death, whereas others could be abused by strategically lighting our arshairs on fire for a higher jump. This all culminates in a rematch against Dino Piranha's estranged father, who after being kicked out of the family couldn't contain his rage anymore. The resulting flame cover makes for a rather difficult boss fight, as finding the right time to smack his tail becomes a significantly tougher task. Persistence was key in this case, and after chasing him down for what felt like a lifetime, we were finally able to put him out of his misery. From here, we fed the last hungry Luma, who transformed into our final galaxy. The idea here is simple: catch these 3 snow bunnies before time runs out. The only catch is that we have to find them first, which was easier said than done. This isn't some simple game either, which is something I learnt the hard way.
Wait, they straight up kill you if you don't find them.
Being executed over a game of hide and seek wasn't on my bingo card this year, which was all the more reason to lock in on our next attempt. There's actually a super simple method when it comes to catching these bunnies, and it involves trapping them in these ditches where they can't escape our grasp. As the new king of hide and seek, we're immediately mogged by Rosalina, who aura farms the shit out of the ensuing cutscene. With our main character status in jeopardy, we had no choice but to hunt down Bowser in his very own galaxy reactor. A galaxy reactor that for all intents and purposes was a pain in the ass to traverse.
Bro, let me up. Bro, what the oh my fucking god.
Every section in this reactor involves moving elements, whether that's platforms that constantly turn or straight up disappear after a short while. Even Bowser knew we were having a hard time, as he loaded up the final staircase with power-ups we could grab. How thoughtful of him. Unfortunately, this made kicking his ass even easier. Now, to give some credit, he has switched a few things up, although again, almost all of his phases just have us smacking him as he rolls around. The final phase is reminiscent of our first few encounters, although he follows this new rolling attack with his jump instead now. All in all, this was a very simple fight, and one of the easiest boss fights in the entire game. With his cheeks well and truly clapped, we grabbed our final grand star, saved Peach from what was certain death, and watched as our Luma friends here consumed a literal black hole, resulting in yet another Big Bang explosion. With astrophysics well and truly out of the window, we awaken the Mushroom Kingdom, which has miraculously gone through its own revolution. Not wanting to be any part of this new era, we instead decided to return to the Comet Observatory, where we learned that we're not quite finished with our tasks just yet. See, even with 105 power stars, we're still 15 short of reaching the final world. This begs the question, where are we going to find these last 15 stars?
No. Wait.
Yeah, so every main galaxy left now has a purple comet orbiting it, meaning we'll have the honor of collecting 100 purple coins in every one of them. Now, I'm not going to cover every single one, as they're quite varied in terms of difficulty. Some were incredibly easy, some were frustratingly hard.
Oh, just fuck off, man. This level sucks ass.
And most of them were just bloody time consuming. The worst of these was Dreadnought Galaxy, as it tasked us with collecting every purple coin during an auto-scroller that had shifting gravity throughout it. I can't tell you the amount of times I'd barely miss one of the coins, which ultimately cost me the entire run, as we're not allowed to miss a single one. It got so bad at one point that I indirectly shattered my own monitor from a deflecting Joy-Con.
Oh, just fuck! Oh, my fucking monitor's Oh, my monitor's broken!
Cracked monitor or not, we still had a job to finish, and after another handful of attempts, we'd managed what I thought to be impossible 30 minutes earlier. The only other purple coin mission I struggled on was Luigi's purple coins. See, at first I thought I had to collect every single one, which was a nightmarish thought, because I mean, look at this shit. Thankfully though, there's far more than 100 purple coins on this level, meaning it comes down to routing and figuring out how you're not only going to get those 100 coins, but make it back to the start, as that's where the star ends up landing. It did take a few attempts, but after completing this stage, the rest were pretty straightforward. Even after collecting all 120 power stars though, we're informed by Rosalina that Peach had somehow gotten herself captured by Bowser once again. Disappointed, we had no choice but to put Bowser back in his place before rescuing Peach for a second time. The game ends with Rosalina thanking us for literally saving the universe, leaving us behind to rot on some godforsaken planet. Hello? Are you just gonna leave me here? Pray tell, what's our reward for one of the most, if not the most impressive human feat ever achieved?
Fucking hell.
You know what's even worse? We've technically only beat 50% of the game. See, to 100% Super Mario Galaxy, we need to play through the entire game again as Luigi. And while Luigi does have some slightly different parameters in the fact that he can run faster, jump higher, and had no grip in his shoes.
Dude, what the? Why does he just buy some new shoes, man?
There really isn't too much to discuss regarding this second playthrough. What I will say is that Luigi's cosmic counterparts are significantly quicker than Mario's, leading to tougher races across the entire game. Another strange difference is the fact that Luigi gets 21 up mushrooms from Peach's letter, where Mario only ever gets 5. Make of that what you will. She's cheating on Mario. At the end of the day though, once we'd collected all 120 stars again, we clapped Bowser's cheeks and enjoyed the festive season once again. Again though, we haven't exactly 100%ed the game. Following all of this, we need to return to the Green Launch Star where we find a wholly new Luma. He launches us to the grand finale of Galaxy, where we get to experience the Star Festival all over again. Instead of dodging meteorites however, we're allowed to stroll through the streets, collecting every purple coin we see. Doing so with both Mario and Luigi brings our total star count to a whopping 242, and only after collecting all of them can we say with definitive proof that we have officially 100%ed Super Mario Galaxy. Returning to the file selection screen shows our icon now sparkling in the sky, and it also shows another number. These numbers represent the number of times we perished in each playthrough. Adding ours together brings our total death count to 108, a far higher number than I'd ever imagined. This was no time to be surprised though, as I had a feeling things were only going to get worse. What a brilliant menu theme. I could honestly listen to it for hours. Unfortunately, we don't have that kind of time to waste, as the Mushroom Kingdom is once again being raided by none other than Bowser. Given the amount of brown-nosing Bowser had to give Zeus for his lightning powers in the first game, Bowser this time around decided to load up on Big Macs instead, ultimately becoming his very own battleship. With Peach role-playing as a permanent hostage, we had no choice but to seek help from our Luma friends once again, and luckily for us, there remained a few strong enough to transform into a launch star. Where this launch star would take us, we had no idea, but I had an inkling that it'd be somewhere with a banging theme. Even the biggest Galaxy hater has to admit that these games have some of the best soundtracks in gaming history. As for the starting Galaxy itself though, it's basically a rehash of Good Egg Galaxy. From the pipes that help us reach the other side of the planet, to introducing these small subsections that reward us with 1-up mushrooms should we complete their objectives, there really isn't too much here to separate the two games in terms of their opening galaxies. I mean, even the goddamn boss of this galaxy is some long lost cousin of Dino Piranha. He may look slightly different, but the method in which we defeat him is exactly the same. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that this iteration might be even easier, as he's got one of the largest asses in Mario history. Now, to say there's nothing new would be disingenuous, as there are a few changes, one of which is particularly relevant to our 100% goal. In the previous game, comets would randomly orbit galaxies we'd already visited. In this game, however, comets will only orbit galaxies that have had their comet coins collected. Now, considering some of these comet coins are well hidden, we'll have to keep a diligent eye out for any branching pathways, as we'll be needing to collect every comet related power star if we are to 100% this game. Thankfully, the comet coin in Sky Station Galaxy isn't too far off the beaten path, meaning we could collect our first power star in peace. Following its guidance, we're dropped off in front of the strange looking Luma, who immediately hits us with one of the toughest story based choices we'll have to make.
This is kind of a tough choice.
Apparently, our choice was so inspiring that he used the energy from a single power star to transform his entire ship into Spaceship Mario. As flattering as this display was, there was only one thought going through my mind. Surely we won't need that many power stars to 100% this game, if one's enough to transform this entire ship, right?
Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
With such a daunting task ahead of us, I needed some time to compose myself, and what better way to do that than to explore our new spaceship. Unlike the Comet Observatory, Spaceship Mario is a bit, well, shit. With that said, there are a few cool things we can do, like slipping down this chimney, and actually, that's about it. Stalling aside, it was finally about time we did something worthwhile as we blasted our way into the world map. Unlike its predecessor, Galaxy 2 features a far simpler galaxy selection process, although I wouldn't go so far as to call it more linear. Like in Galaxy 1, our travel distance is still limited by the number of power stars we've collected, meaning I once again looked to complete every galaxy in order. This saw us returning to Sky Station Galaxy, where we're greeted by an entourage of baby chain chomps. This level in particular brings back the flip switches, although it soon became clear that we weren't the only ones here. For whatever reason, the numerous kids we'd stolen lunch money from in high school had come back to haunt us, and the only way to get rid of them was to summon a launch star. The rest of the level saw us avoiding massive bullet bills, which we, well, didn't. Upon returning to Spaceship Mario, one thing became crystal clear. We weren't getting any help this time around. With that thought in mind, we charted a course for Yoshi Star Galaxy, which, as its name suggests, is this universe's main breeding ground for a rather special dinosaur. To reach him, however, we had to get through Kamek. Being so powerful, he'd erected an entire barrier.
Never mind. He's dead.
As thanks for freeing him, Yoshi lets us ride him. Wait. And just like that, the most formidable duo in Mario Galaxy history was born. I say this because Yoshi feels like a cheat code. The flutter in his jump allows us to reach higher areas, and his tongue works wonders when it's gobbling up its enemies. We're lucky in a sense, as we'll be needing these overpowered abilities when confronting King Lakitu. Ironically enough, if we didn't have Yoshi here, we'd be completely stuck on the second planet. See, Yoshi has the ability to consume literally anything, meaning these spiked enemies aren't so much a threat to us, but they are to King Lakitu. As we continued along, we came across a rather familiar face blocking our path. Just like in the original, we can feed these hungry Luma starbits in order to get them to transform into new galaxies. Feeding this particular Luma created a branching pathway to Flip Switch Galaxy, a rather tame galaxy that introduces platforms that swap whenever we spin. Upon returning to the spaceship once again, we're made aware of the fact that we've got our very own stalker. Yet considering how helpful Luigi was in the past, I gave this bunny the benefit of the doubt to see if they had anything useful to offer us.
The fuck? We've been doing that for years!
In the hopes of forgetting that encounter entirely, we launched ourselves towards Spin Dig Galaxy, the first galaxy to offer us a power-up. This may well be the first galaxy power-up to not turn us into a makeshift cosplayer, which honestly means fuck all in the grand scheme of things. Waffle aside, we can use this drill to burrow through the earth, allowing us to reach areas we could only dream of before. Conveniently, it also happens to be the only power-up capable of damaging the underside of Diggerleg, the main boss of this galaxy. Defeating him opened up the pathway to a further 2 galaxies, although before any of that, it was brought to our attention once again that we'd somehow been found by the Toad Brigade. Wanting nothing to do with them, we dove into Right Side Down Galaxy, only to find they'd predicted our exact move. Dude, how in the fuck? Apparently, this was the galaxy of reunions as we bumped into Guillermo once again. As expected, Guillermo here still has no idea how to use the broom he's holding, meaning it's once again up to us to clean up his mess. This time though, we aren't throwing bombs, we're throwing fireballs. When compared to the original, I'd say this iteration of trash cleaning is significantly easier, although that mainly only applies to this first round. The remaining stages in this galaxy saw us switching between different galaxies as we looked to grab yet another power star. On the other side of things was Fluffy Bluff Galaxy, a serene galaxy that reminds me a lot of Gusty Garden. This is likely due to the musical score accompanying it, but there are some elements like the cloud suit that make the whole experience feel weightless. In a way, the cloud suit also makes these galaxies a complete joke, as the platforming segments become somewhat obsolete. Considering how straightforward our journey had been up to this point, I wasn't exactly intimidated by Bowser Jr.'s fiery flotilla. These feelings would only grow stronger as we learned that Bowser Jr. always keeps these switches to his massive fortified doors on the outside. I mean, that's just fucking stupid. As is the case with every Bowser stage, firebars start as the main character, filling up every section from start to finish. They really have to think of other obstacles surely, like they can't only have these things around. Speaking of the end, Bowser Jr. makes a short appearance before using the 7 Dragon Balls to summon Shenron. Despite his overwhelming aura, it seems Shenron here was out of practice as he seemed to have no idea what he was doing. Every time he'd burrow, we'd pop one of his protruding pimples, and after a while he couldn't hack it anymore. The good news is that we wished for a Grand Star upon his defeat, which he did indeed grant us. Grand Stars in this game work a bit differently to the ones in Mario Galaxy 1. See, instead of using them to power our ship, we used them to open up portals to the nearest toilet, as they hadn't even installed one on Spaceship Mario. With our bladder loosening, we wasted no time, blasting through this portal only to find out that it led to an entirely different world. In the hopes of finding a toilet, we launched ourselves into Puzzle Plank Galaxy. Not long into it, we stumbled across a hungry Luma, who assumed could transform into a toilet if we paid enough coinage. Ah, fuck. As concerning as this was, hope wasn't lost just yet, as the planet he created did in fact have some ponds we could make use of. The only problem is that they were apparently private property owned by none other than Buggaboom. In the end, whether or not we pissed ourselves came down to a rematch against one of the more annoying early game bosses. Or at least that was the case before we had access to this overpowered cloud suit. At this point, we hadn't died a single time, which is far more impressive than our pathetic run in the original. We could honestly be looking at a deathless run if this keeps up. With our death count's virginity lost, we looked to change things up as we moved on to Hightail Falls Galaxy. Yoshi makes his return appearance to this galaxy, and for good reason, as we'll be needing his explosive arsehole to reach not only the Comet Coin, but the Power Star as well. Upon returning to Spaceship Mario, we're issued our first official letter from our rivals, who challenged us to a competition where losing means death. Luckily for us, the game in question was rather simple. Beat the chimp's score of 10,000 by comboing multiple stomps on enemies. The same thing we've been doing for decades. This was going to be easy.
Am I a joke to you?
As drastic as this all was, we did in fact beat the chimp's score on our very first attempt. Although considering the game lended itself to our strengths, we decided to spare the chimp from his untimely end. Detours aside, we returned to the second world where we entered the Boulder Bowl Galaxy. As its name suggests, this galaxy contains the Rock Mushroom power-up, which turns us into a Geodude. Even so, our abilities mimic those of Graveler, as we're able to curl up into a ball and use rollout on these makeshift bowling pins. While in this form, there's basically no enemy that can stand up to us, meaning the only threat to our safety is ourselves. Apparently, the boss of this galaxy didn't appreciate us saying this, as he promptly challenged us to a roll-off. Unfortunately for him though, he never really stood a chance, as we've been dealing backshots to bosses for a millennia now.
What did he say?
Seeking out our next Power Star took us back to our Bumble beginnings. Get it?
Oh, brother!
Ironically enough, the name itself wasn't kidding, as the platforming in the galaxy is rather rudimentary. There are a few enemies in our path, but they don't necessarily attack us, making for a rather tame stage where I couldn't see how we'd ever die. Bro, what the fuck are the chances? Like I was saying, dying on such a basic level would immediately obliterate any gamer credibility. With the world's most embarrassing deaths now associated with our name, we looked for a change of scenery, which took the form of Wild Glide Galaxy. Surprisingly enough, despite this level requiring motion controls, I didn't find it too frustrating, although collecting the common coin at the end did cause some rather brief outrage. Oh, just for fuck's sake, man. Following this, we found ourselves chasing a bunny on the universe's most dangerous planet, swimming through moving water platforms in fucking space with black holes surrounding us, before taking on Bowser's lava lair. Unlike Bowser Jr. stage, this one teeters on the edge of being somewhat challenging. Bowser really didn't hold back in setting up his lair, as it features spinning platforms, annoying ass enemies that eat the literal ground we're standing on, as well as plenty of auto-scroller sections. Upon reaching Bowser, it seemed as though he had only one message to preach. That being size doesn't matter, as we clapped his cheeks in record time. Outside of his fire breath attack, Bowser might have put together the shittiest arsenal of attacks yet. The meteorites warn you 2 weeks in advance, and his punch is so slow that you're probably already standing on one of the meteorites the moment he lands it. Either way, another grand star means another world, and this one started off yet again with our green-tailed friend. With the amount of screen time Yoshi was getting, it was imperative that we made it clear to him that we were in fact the main character. To help drill this notion in, we constantly fed him the gaseous fruit we could find. Not wanting to waste such a great opportunity, we capitalized on Yoshi's gassy state by riding him to the Power Star like the scumbags that we are. Considering the hell we just put Yoshi through, it shouldn't come as a surprise to learn that he sat this next stage out, meaning it was up to us to conquer this world's greatest slide. And never mind. With our confidence at an all-time low, we needed an immediate pick-me-up, and what's better than a galaxy where we once again abuse the shit out of Cloud Mario? I'll tell you what's better, abusing the shit out of Cloud Luigi instead. Honestly, I'm not sure which cis-filled cavern Luigi crawled out of, but being able to play as him whenever we'd like instead of having to replay the whole game as him was a very welcome change. Following the completion of Cloud Court Galaxy, we're notified about our very first prankster comet. In reality, this was an execution mission disguised as a prankster comet, as we were tasked with obliterating the last remaining Spinies to walk the planet. The ease with which we completed this task ultimately resulted in yet another prankster comet, and another, and another. Most of these comets have been recycled from Galaxy 1. Daredevil comets still fuck your ass the moment you get hit, speedrun comets still task us with completing a stage in a given time limit, although this time there are clocks you can pick up to add more time, and purple coin comets are still lame as fuck. The one hiding in Tall Trunk Galaxy in particular was frustrating beyond belief, as I'd either cook myself with some dogshit plays, or through right at the end having not collected all 100 coins. To say our confidence was at an all-time low would be an understatement, as every galaxy we ventured into seemed to get the better of us. It wasn't until we arrived at Beat Block Galaxy that we actually managed to string together a few Power Stars without dying, only to return to a Comet Galaxy and get railed once again. Following this drastic form, we beat the shit out of Rudolph's pet Snowball, slapped up Shenron in record time, and got absolutely outplayed by the freakiest chain chomp to ever exist. Bro, what the fuck? In my defense, this guy straight up cheats. Like, how in the world is he not falling off here? What the huh? Get off the fucking edge, bro. Alas, it was time to remind Bowser Jr. why he's a supporting character as we entered his mighty Mega Hammer. Having been inspired by the defensive line his father put forward, Bowser Jr. definitely didn't hold back in loading his fortress with goons. Unbeknownst to him, however, we had the power of the dinosaurs on our side, and this isn't just any dinosaur. This one came with the ability to swallow rockets and fire them back at its targets. Seeing this, Bowser Jr. decided to rock up in a mech suit that not only had massive obvious weak points, but shot out bullet bills as its main attacking option. Safe to say, this was one of the easiest bosses we've had to defeat. The next world started off with Supermassive Galaxy, a pretty neat concept where everything around us has been supersized. Despite all that though, I was more focused on planting flowers on this tiny ass planet, fully unaware of the fact that filling it completely led to a hidden power star. This galaxy in general was a rather tame one, with pretty simple objectives, although there were a few that just tried to fuck me over last minute. Why is he fucking jumping that way? Just grab the star, man. Alas, the only one doing any fucking around these parts was us, as we spent the next 10 minutes pounding these weird ass creatures from below. Unlike the numerous other tribe rulers, the queen of the pup dozers didn't really seem to give a fuck that her tribe was getting absolutely rinsed, as by the time we found her, she was sleeping peacefully. Because we had obliterated the rest of her race, we knew she had to go as well, as it'd be cruel to leave her as the sole survivor. With that said, I don't think there's anything more frightening than when she's dashing towards us. Actually, I think I spoke too soon. Let's rewind a bit, however, as there were a few things we had to do to get to this cancerous minigame. After busting the queen's ass, we found ourselves in Chompworks Galaxy, where we got edged to oblivion by this final purple coin. Following that humiliating death, we looked to relax in Starshine Beach Galaxy, where we once again abused the fuck out of Yoshi. From there, we did a mini boss rush, which saw us taking out Bowser Jr.'s ass clapper with only one hit point, as well as Bowser himself in his very own gravity gauntlet. Again, his attacks are far too predictable, making slamming these massive balls into his face almost too easy. After racing through another portal, we ended up on Space Storm Galaxy, which had us luring bombs into cages, as well as slowing down time to make this climb up the tower feasible. Finally, after all of that, we arrived in Upside Dizzy Galaxy, where we grabbed the first Power Star without hassle, only to stumble across Gearmo here once again. By now, you should know how brutal the second rounds of these minigames are. You've basically got to have perfect lines, otherwise there's no chance in hell you're completing it in time. I can't in good faith tell you how many attempts this took me, but just know that it rhymes with a duck ton. As tilting as this minigame was, things were somehow about to get even worse. See, within Blue Moon Galaxy, there's a particular star that has us ignoring the obvious launch star and continuing on with these snake blocks. The hardest part, however, comes towards the end of this path as the blocks speed up and the pathway becomes thinner. Not only that, it's littered with these ghost assholes that make certain movements extremely risky. I can't tell you the amount of times I got within touching distance of the power star just to throw it all away.
Bro, you gotta be fucking kidding, it's right there! Oh my god!
In hindsight, this star might not be that bad, but trust me, in the moment, it felt like the hardest shit ever. What wasn't nearly as hard was Slip Sand Galaxy, a galaxy that for all intents and purposes seemed to be the likely supplier of pyramids to Egypt in the ancient times. Despite this theory, the local inhabitants didn't exactly look capable of building these monuments either, leaving us with yet another conundrum. That was until we saw this beast. Yep, no, we still have that fucking conundrum. Despite this thing looking insanely goofy, the quicksand surrounding him makes this fight a rather frustrating one, as we're constantly trying to avoid this guy's balls while barely being able to move in the sand. This becomes especially hard when he starts launching massive ass bombs at you, all while we're trying to get in close enough to launch our balls deep into his throat. With arguably the sussest fight behind us, we made our way over to Fleet Clyde Galaxy, where we displayed the worst flying ability in galactic history. As if things couldn't get any worse though, we were dragged back to Slip Sand Galaxy for a rematch against the Sandy Testicles monster, this time however, on 1 health. By this point, the game was confidently kicking our asses, regardless of the galaxy we were visiting. Even so, there were stars to collect, which saw us confronting this caterpillar who really shouldn't have a driver's license, as well as Bowser Jr., who was trying his absolute hardest to make his fights unnecessarily frustrating. What makes his boom bunker annoying to deal with is the fact that it's mobile. This can lead to whole ass years where we're just standing around or following after him trying to reach him before he moves once again. All of this just to get baited into a ground pound while he's discharging his electricity. Dude, this shit lasts so fucking long. At the end of the day though, this fight's all about patience and timing your movements to coincide with his. Another Grand Star means another world to explore, obviously, and this one starts off with one of the most aesthetic and atmospheric galaxies in the entire game. I can't lie, these things used to scare the shit out of me as a kid. Now though, the only things I wondered was why these massive melty monsters were deep-throating these rock balls, or how we ended up as Rock Mario rolling through an obstacle course that seemingly had nothing to do with the same galaxy. If that wasn't awkward enough, we ended up playing the Chimps game once again, and despite it looking easy enough, we were in for one of the biggest cockblocks known to man. Hoping for a change of scenery, we saw ourselves blasting into Clockwork Ruins Galaxy, only to realize that this might have been the wrong decision moments later. Despite this galaxy having slow moving objects, it does offer a decent amount of challenge, as any mistake oftentimes leads to an instant death.
Ah, what the fuck? What did I even die to?
I go so far as to say that this galaxy in particular truly tested my patience the most, especially when it had us collecting just enough coins to feed this luma towards the start. Navigating these turning blocks while bouncing on enemies' heads in hopes of collecting just enough coins was a truly painful experience. The silver lining in all of this though was the fact that the resulting planet was a rather straightforward one to complete, as well as the purple coins mission attached to it. From here we got a little bit of a breather as we made our way on over to Throwback Galaxy. For anyone that's 5 seconds old or younger, this galaxy is essentially Womp's Fortress from Super Mario 64, meaning it was a complete cakewalk for someone like me, who holds multiple speedrunning records in Super Mario 64.
Stop the cap.
Following this, we defeated Shenron's blazing hot sister, abused the shit out of Yoshi's long tongue, and came across one of the best views in the entire game. At this point, we'd obtained every power star there was to obtain, meaning we were left with the last obstacle, Bowser's Galaxy Generator. Being the supposed last galaxy there was to conquer, it shouldn't come as a surprise to learn that it essentially tested us in every possible way. From dodging massive bullet bills with the drill top to using cloud platforms to work our way towards the Yoshi, there really wasn't a stone left unturned. The toughest part of this gauntlet was without a doubt the final section, where we have to dodge these massive melting monsters while moving across snake platforms. Considering I lost Yoshi here at the very last minute, I just decided to fucking end myself, as I couldn't be screwed coming back through the galaxy just to get the Comet Coin once again. Bowser in comparison packed about as much punch as a literal wet wipe. His attacks are still the exact same, making them extremely easy to avoid, and his natural weakness to floating balls still costs him every battle against us. This time around though, he wasn't going to go down without a proper fight, as he reappears from the depths only to swallow the Grand Star once again, taking us into a second phase. All this phase serves to do, however, is waste our time, as this pathetic attempt at a comeback essentially stems down to him spin dashing his way towards us as he takes countless balls to the face. Having sent Bowser to the Shadow Realm for the 18th time, we're finally able to reunite with Peach once again while also obtaining our final Grand Star. What wasn't part of the plan, however, was letting Peach drive our spaceship, as within seconds she'd placed us directly in front of a comet. Thankfully, what we'd run into wasn't exactly a comet, but Rosalina's observatory instead. The bad news was, despite being in one piece, we were now being sued by Rosalina for damages against her spacecraft. With a cosmic debt to pay off, we had no choice but to jump straight back into the action, and luckily for us, there was a whole new world for us to explore. Before purposefully bending over for this new world, however, we still had to conquer the Comet Star back on Bowser's Galaxy generator, a feat that was actually made easier due to there being no bullet bills present at all throughout the stage. With that said, as we approached the end, things couldn't have gotten dicier. With every Power Star collected, it was finally time to take on the final world, a world that made every other world look like complete child's play. In terms of difficulty spikes, this world was the pure definition of one, as every galaxy we entered, we'd essentially be sticking our ass out looking to get power. Whether we were being chased by our void clones while trying to collect 100 purple coins on a tight time limit, or collecting more purple coins on a rolling stage with another tight time limit. Wait, there never seemed to be any time to relax. Stone Cyclone Galaxy grinded my gears as the timings required for some of these jumps was just straight up absurd, while Boss Blitz Galaxy was straight up RNG, as completing it within the required time limit came down to Bouldergeist and how he felt that day. The anal fisting was wrapped up in Flip Out Galaxy, which saw us working our way towards the Comet Star, all while we were being hunted down by our very own clones once again. After what felt like a lifetime of attempts, we did finally manage to conquer this world, although even after all this, we've only completed half of the game. Yes, you heard me right. See, to 100% this game, we not only have to gather these initial 120 power stars, but also trigger a downfall of prankster comets, which in turn activates yet another 120 green stars. To do this, we first need to return to Bowser's Galaxy reactor, where we need to clap his cheeks personally once again. Doing so gets Rosalina in the storytelling mood, where she alludes to a story involving some magical green stars. Her saying this apparently makes the cosmos shit itself, as immediately following all of this, we're bombarded by a bunch of green prankster comets. This essentially doubles the amount of power stars we need to collect from each planet, although interestingly, it doesn't change the layout of the planets themselves. Instead, it just plops these random ass green stars throughout the galaxies, and it's up to us to find them all. Some of these green stars are incredibly easy to obtain, while others feel nearly impossible. Now again, I won't sit here and go through every single one, as doing so adds absolutely nothing of value to your lives. Instead, I'll just focus on some of the tougher green stars we had to collect, as at least those ones provide some form of entertainment. Fuck! One thing you'll notice about a lot of these tougher stars is the fact that they're difficult due to the placement of the star itself, and not because of enemies or tough platforming. I can't count the number of times I positioned myself into thinking I got the star just to miss it by a hair's length. Bro, what? How does that not count? Other times I straight up jumped through them only to get slapped in the face by no rakes. Bro, I jumped through it. I literally jumped through it. Some I had some cheeky strats for, like this home and ground pound ability, while others relied on some pretty glitchy movement to grab. All in all, this was by far the most painful experience we'd trudged through so far, and despite the hours-long torture chamber we'd just gotten through, there remained yet another challenge. See, upon collecting 240 power stars, we're greeted by one final galaxy, fittingly named Grandmaster Galaxy. As you'd expect, this galaxy was the final challenge offered by Galaxy 2 and features a long gauntlet of planets which test different attributes. It starts out relatively easy by testing our timing and positioning with Yoshi before quickly delving into the tougher planets like the one which features spin flip platforms and countless ring beamers. The following pool star planet isn't too tough, but the final planet, which boils down to a fuck ton of hammer bros, does make for a decently challenging finale. Even so, this galaxy only took us 4 attempts or so to conquer, which honestly was far less than I'd originally thought. The addition of the checkpoints throughout the galaxy was almost too forgiving in hindsight, an aspect the developers looked to correct in their final test for us. See, this isn't where the game ends, as there's one final comet star we need to acquire. To trigger this comet, we'll need to farm enough star bits to hit the counter limit. In this case, this sees us collecting 9,999 star bits, an amount that at the time sounded absolutely ridiculous. In order to farm such a colossal amount, we'd need to employ a rather brain-dead strategy. This saw us returning to the Melty Monster Galaxy, or more specifically the Rock Mario bowling course attached to its second star. The idea here is pretty simple. Roll our way through this level and then purposefully die towards the end in order to reset ourselves back to the start. Doing so not only allows us to collect the same groups of star bits again, but we don't technically lose the ones we'd already collected, allowing us to build up a huge amount in a very short time frame. Unfortunately, this strategy does involve adding unnecessary deaths to our counter, although given the time it saves, I couldn't bring myself to use any other method. Either way, after collecting 9,999 star bits, we're graced by the final prankster comment, which tasks us with completing Grandmaster Galaxy without getting hit a single time. Now, as daunting as this challenge sounds, the perfect run only took me 4 attempts or so. See, there's actually some pretty cool tech that you can employ to make certain sections a lot more manageable, like letting yourself drop from these pull stars only to pull yourself back up and let the momentum carry you past the range of the obstacles. There's also some backflip tech on the flip swap section, but I'm kinda dogshit at that stuff, so I just did it normally and hoped for the best. Even with all of these tricky strats however, my heart was beating so fucking fast on that final Hammer Bros sections, and not even I know how I got some of these clutch last minute spins in. Oh my, how am I not fucking dead? Holy fuck. With this final power star, we had officially 100%ed Mario Galaxy 2. The reward for doing so has Rosalina visiting our ship and waving off the extra funds we'd have to pay her for crashing into her observatory. Like Galaxy 1, Galaxy 2 has been tracking our deaths, and now that we have 100% of the game, we can see that this number reads 213. Now, I do have to subtract 29 of these deaths because of the boulder roll minigame, where we were purposefully dying in order to farm starbits for the final comet. These technically count, but wouldn't be a fair comparison to Galaxy 1, where I didn't have to do any sort of thing. This leaves our total death count at 184, which is honestly far higher than I'd ever imagined. A lot of these came from green stars, as they'd often require us to complete some sort of leap of faith only to miss drastically and end up dying. Either way, at the end of it all, I can confidently say that between these two masterpieces, Galaxy 2 is far harder to 100% than its predecessor. I do hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do consider dropping a like and even subscribing. If you want to support me further, I'd be very grateful if you could become a member of the channel. Your support means the world to me. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll be seeing you all in the next one.